will be your moon, you will be my sky, and I promise I will follow you until the end of the line. And I will be your flower if you will be the bee. And I promise I will always give you the sweetest parts of me. 'Cause you're the tip to my top, the key to my lock, you're my breakfast in the morning, you're my up to my down and the king of my crown, and you're everything I want. You got that sweet, sweet honey, sugar, and I want it sweet, sweet honey. You got that sweet, sweet honey, sugar, and I want it sweet, sweet, sweet honey. So give it to me.
Side of he put around the necks of Republicans to weigh him down. It's there is the ability to resist the government should it ever come to that. It has only come to that in the United States a handful of times, and I'll tell you, every time it's happened, I have not wanted the rebels to win. It's usually by resisting the government. That ends up meaning resisting the will of the people. I don't like that. I had a video cut from the hard work I did this morning. Had a video cut. I didn't even put it out for the lobbyists. Because I failed to mention that right there. What he's saying. The point of a lot of this, even when we know, for example, that the House will refuse to vote.
Ooh, mercy. Welcome to WYCD Wicked. That stands for What You Can Do. And we have got our first ever fan-made content. And the fan, credit where it's due, was Zoe, who is a good girl. Thank you so much, Wicked Foxy Dragon, for submitting that. It made my whole night. Zoe's adorable. Oh, loved it. This is Salty Saturday. I've got my stereotypical latte, fully prepared to have an incredibly immature stream, wherein I get out of my system all of the immature jokes that I have realized since writing them that aren't cool to say, generally speaking. How you doing tonight, Wicked community? Oh boy, we got a lot of chat already. Cool Jams. Jake says wireless mic. Thank you. That was what was that? That was Sweet Honey, and it's available on audio. What a good big dog, says Franny P. Wholeheartedly agreed. She's an 80-pound Siberian Husky, according to Wicked Foxy Dragon. A source with knowledge on the matter. Let's dive into it. So here's the thing. Do something slightly obnoxious on the stream. Get all proper. it already. Reading comments the other day, and it just in an unrelated video. And somebody who was a men's rights activist brought up a point which I have to admit I agree with. People were making fun of, I think, Trump. But hey, it could have been Bannon. It could have been any of these cats for having small genitals. Now, I just want to be clear. It's not funny just because Trump likely, according to Stormy Daniels, has small genitals. It's funny because he's made a big deal out of not having small genitals. And no presidential candidate before this, to my knowledge, has it's even occurred to them to mention these things because they are utterly irrelevant. But still, men's rights activists said, look, I don't see how you can be angry at people that don't like black people because of the color of their skin, something they were born with, and then turn around and make fun of somebody else for something they were born with. And my heart broke because suddenly so many jokes I used to tell no longer funny. They were just hurtful. They were mean. So there's one more night where we're going to keep them alive and we're going to say goodbye to them. Because I will not make small or large D jokes. Now that said, I will still make I'm being real with you. You can't say I lied to you. I'm still gonna make large balls jokes. Because it's a metaphorical large balls. For example, let's say Justin Pearson, one of the gentlemen who went up against the Tennessee legislature, knowing damn well that they were racist, knowing damn well that they didn't care about kids, and embarrassed them on a national stage. And he managed to do this despite, having to lug around that wheelbarrow, which he requires to cart his gigantic balls around from room to room. That's the kind of joke we're talking about here, folks, except it's going to be related to the penis. Because Donald Trump has made a very big deal about whether or not his genitals are big. So for some context about why this is going to be such a topic of conversation that, shockingly, nobody else has jumped on, I guess because they came into adulthood being as mature as adults, and I'm just now getting there. But nobody else has talked about. Let's give it some context. Here's MSNBC, coincidentally, recently, talking about sort of the periphery of why this conversation is going to come up in an actual court of law. It's Salty Saturday. No solutions, just salt. Here we go.
MAGA Republicans coming to criminal defendant Donald Trump's defense. Surprise! Trump ally gym class hero Jordan subpoenaing Mark Pomerantz, a former prosecutor in Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg's office. DA Bragg firing back with a scathing response, slamming Republicans for interfering in an ongoing New York criminal case, engaging in a, quote, campaign of harassment and intimidation, calling it an abuse of power, and vowing none of this will deter his office from the Trump criminal case. Now star witness Stormy Daniels is speaking out, the woman at the center of the case, saying she would testify against Donald Trump.
It's daunting, but I look forward to it. You know what I mean? Because I have nothing to hide. I'm the only one that has been telling the truth. I think having them call me in and put me on the stand legitimizes my story and who I am.
So there's no doubt if they ask you to testify, you will testify?
Oh, absolutely.
A central witness who received those hush money payments wants to go on the stand and go face-to-face with Donald Trump as he sits in that courtroom and spill all the tea that she's got. Next week, prosecutors are expected to turn over to Trump's defense team the first tranche of discovery materials, grand jury minutes and exhibits, and notes of witness statements. The DA specifically calling out harassment and intimidation from Congress. It comes after a flurry of threats Trump made against the judge. The social media post revealed in newly public filings from Trump's arraignment. The judge now getting threats. One official telling NBC News, quote, dozens of threats have recently been directed at the judge and his chambers. The judge warned Trump a gag order.
Oh, there's something with the gag order, I'm sure. But no. That first bit. Surprise, it's Big Jake. You see, if prosecutors are to be believed, and I'm going to stay at this 3/4 turn because even though I've worked real hard to prevent it from happening, there's a chance that one day my mama could find this stream, and I can't have her see me look her in the eyes when I say this. There's a chance that clown up on screen there, no, the white one, no, the other white one, the blonde one, that clown is going to be in court saying that that Stormy Daniels has never seen his penis. Now, on the campaign trail, he got self-conscious about his small hands. That people pointed out he does have small hands. I don't actually know if there's any correlation, but he does have small hands. That's just a statement of fact. And it was funny that he was denying that. We're all coming to Stormy, don't worry. It was funny that he was denying that he had small hands because he was the one that first publicly, of like the serious crew, of the non-comedians, he was the first person to also make that related to his genitals. He said, and I'm quoting, "There's no problem there." All right, man. Nobody in the serious crew was talking about that, but he felt it was necessary to bring it up. Okay. Go down the line some. And he appears, if the prosecutor is proved correct in a court of law, then he had sex with Stormy Daniels. He says, or at least he has said publicly, that he never had sex with Stormy Daniels. She's never seen him naked. Stormy Daniels has publicly described the former president's penis. That it was quite small. And now we come to the delightful part. This will have to be hashed out in a court of law. We're going to have to figure out who's telling the truth. Again, not because it's illegal for this guy to have a small schwanz. That's fine. But because it's now wrapped up in an actual crime. And he has contested. He felt the need to go that extra step and say she's never even seen him naked, or at the very least, she's never even they've never had sex. This will require, and I'm being serious, and correct me, God help me if I'm wrong, but as far as I sees it, this is going to require what can only be described as a non-biased penis expert. Now, one could argue that Stormy Daniels, because, all right, here's why. She says she saw what Donald Trump's genitals look like. He says, nuh-uh, we've never had sex. She said, oh, yes, we did. You paid me to cover it up. It wasn't, as you say, this was a consensual affair that we had. So she will be able to prove that she has knowledge of what Donald Trump looks like naked, but the court can't just take her word for it, right? The court is going to have to verify in some way, and she is going to be able to prove this by, bear in mind, this all depends on if they make this part of the case. It's silly. It's silly. But you know, she's going to have to accurately describe his business, and they're going to need someone who can just, take her words and apply them to the average. What is small? What is large? You have just, if she just tells the judge and the two lawyers in a room somewhere, they can't then have a gander and say, you can't haul Donald Trump out in front of the jury and have him flash his schwanz. You can't do it. So let me go to this here. The conflict is that Donald Trump says Stephanie Clifford never saw him naked, and Miss Clifford said she has. To prove that she is telling the truth, Miss Clifford could describe Trump's genitals, and if Donald Trump refuted that description, the court would be obligated to verify which was correct. For the record, I think the Trump team will be confident enough, just barely, to argue that any description either party gave would be an opinion, thus allowing Donald Trump to describe his penis however he wants. Well, any similarities could be coincidence. The judge will likely accept that and move on, rather than be the guy to make a former president show his todger. But the fact that the prosecution might argue that a sufficiently detailed description would prove familiarity. Here's a segment called Jake Has It Both Ways. That's not totally crazy. I have a concerning mole in my bathing suit area. If somebody wanted to prove to a court that they had seen me in the buff, they could use a description of it to demonstrate that fact. They could say, there he is, Judge. There's the guy that said he'd Venmo me for dinner, didn't cover his half, then only paid the rest after I ghosted him. And I'm like, dude, thanks for the mind-blowing sex, akin to the Harlem Globetrotters in both style and tone, but we're in our 30s. Come on. The wild thing is, I'm not positive the judge would side with the defense. I'd say it's more likely than not, but one could reasonably argue that it's no different than having seen a tattoo that's normally covered up. If they decide to accept the description as accurate, they cannot simply have Miss Clifford describe the schwartz of the former president of the United States in open court and then have him whip it out for the jury. You would have to bring in an independent expert who would view Donald Trump's genitals, then accept a description of them from Miss Clifford in front of a judge, Trump, and their attorneys, and then go on to the stand and testify as to whether Miss Clifford was able to accurately describe the genitals. Here's the thing. They either need an expert or a panel, because you have to trust that the person will understand what large or small means in regards to the general population. At the very least, they should be qualified to take measurements. This means we could be in a position where the U.S. government is combing through resumes of urologists, plastic surgeons, and moils who specialize in conversions, looking for someone everybody agrees can make an honest assessment of a penis. There could be a moment this very year where the whole country is watching this one random person pulled from the masses because Uncle Sam happened to need their particular expertise, clear their throat and say, yes, it's a little schmeckle. It's not about whatever physical trait the guy was born with. It's funny because he made it weirdly clear that it's important to him that people think he has a large penis because he believes having a large penis is important. More Jake Has It Both Ways. For the record, there is nothing morally wrong with having a body of whatever shape, and the rest comes down to preference. Yes, preferences skew towards certain things more often, but that is only a fraction of what makes someone a competent sinner. And there are those whose preferences are for the diminutive. Not that I'd known. But I am hoping to hear from a charitable woman someday. What differentiates a stumble from a tumble is the ability to avoid falling. By lying about legal matters, Donald Trump has tripped, and the speed at which he realizes this ain't a stumble will determine how much dignity he has left when he hits the ground. That is what's particularly funny about Donald Trump's current legal situation. And for the record, I am positive that this will be avoided. I'm willing to bet that this will be avoided. I'm just saying, at a minimum, it's put Donald Trump in a place where his lawyers, in all seriousness, are going to have to sit him down and say, at some point, if you keep lying about your schwanz, the prosecution will make it an issue. And maybe you should just not talk about that particular aspect of this very, very shady-ass case. Oh, it feels good to say. It feels good to say. Oh, good, good. Great. Other jokes we've got stored up. Oh, you know what? We'll save them for later in the stream. We got other things to go over. Let's look at what the Wicked community has to say. Wireless Mike says, oh, God, I'm sorry. We're starting with Randy P. Tiny mushroom style. Wireless Mike says he also wears lifts in his shoes. He had to admit that he's actually 1 inch shorter than he claims on his arraignment paperwork. That's too good. Mars Falcon, sketch artist depiction. Oh, my God. They're only going to need like 2-3 pixels for that one. Wireless, Franny P. What am I saying? Oh, never mind. Wicked Foxy Dragon says, oh, my God, Jake. Franny P says Michael Jackson had to have his photographed for a civil trial. Oh, my God. Just imagining Donald Trump like, hold on, I need to get in the zone. Just let me think for a second. Okay. Pamela Anderson in a Klan hood. All right, we're getting there. Good Lord. Mars Falcon, she certainly has a general knowledge of the subject. Like Ms. Vito and my cousin Vinny, I think the defense would have to accept her professional opinion. Yeah. Look, I reviewed Stormy Daniels' expertise for many, many hours, and I can say she does have a great deal of experience. I went over all the footage necessary for you, wicked audience. If Trump has something big to see, they would have already seen it, and not his tiny hands, says Franny P. Yep. Mars Falcon, in quotes, Mr. Trump, hand on the Bible, raise your right hand, repeat after me, and drop the trousers. Bailiff. Wicked Foxy Dragon says he is selling t-shirts with a mugshot on it. The measurement background shows him at 6'1". Oh, God, I love it. For the record, measurement background on those, I believe, says 6'5". And I think he actually is 6'1". I think he's... Oh, I see what you're saying. It's the actual background in the mugshot. I don't know. But yeah, I think he's actually 6'1". He just has a smaller penis than he says. Okay. Mars Falcon did so much research, didn't you? You could admit to it, brother. Yeah, look, I put in the work. On an unrelated note, I'm going to rest this arm for a while. Look, we got another video here. The most immature stream I have ever done. And I did literally... over 200 hours of streaming so far. It's a fun day, though. And for the record, Trump did bring this on himself. What was our other video? Oh, Clarence Thomas. Look, I had a Bernie Sanders joke I was going to work in here, and I'm not confident that I can work it in smoothly. It's one of those things where I had the bit in my head and I only wrote down enough notes to remember the actual joke, but not where it fits in to the thing. Fun, more background facts for your old pal Jake. I was if you were familiar with the Second City, I took classes in Detroit and Chicago to try to get better performing, which is great at teaching you how to do stuff on the fly. but not so great when it comes to memorizing things. That's the downside to improv. There's a whole lot of that. A whole lot of stuff that goes from being kind of funny to just making no damn sense. But anyway, here's the joke totally out of context, since we got to get them all done in this stream anyway. I want to take you back, talking about my brother Bernie. Bernie was born in 1949. Here's an image right before the Moyles said, "Ryan, get the hedge clippers." That's the whole joke. And I don't remember how he fits into this Clarence Thomas story, but I really want to talk about this Clarence Thomas story and just bitch about it. So let's go. Hey, all right, let's go.
I'm David Feldman, and this is the mop-up for April 8th, 2023. Judge Clarence Thomas is an old, dear friend of mine, and he's very upset tonight about this article that's in ProPublica. So, as a personal hospitality to my friend Clarence Thomas, I offered him some time on my show because that's...
Damn it. It was a David Feldman joke. It wasn't a Bernie Sanders joke. They're just both Jewish, and I'm just a little bit, bigoted. I'm fighting out. Working on that. Anyway. Yeah, all right. So there's a young David Feldman. Ryan, get the hedge clippers. All right. Now we know where the joke was supposed to go.
What dear friends do as a personal hospitality. And I began to talk to him, and he is spitting angry about this article in ProPublica. And I said, Clarence, I am your friend. And as a personal hospitality, I don't believe you should come on the show to set the record straight. Instead, write something out. And as a personal hospitality, because that's what dear friends do, I will read your statement on the show because I have a feeling that you'll go off script and say things that you'll regret. So as a personal hospitality.
Speaking of jokes, gags, and general tomfoolery, I'm going to tell the wicked Senate, but I'm probably not going to bring this up too often after because I will forget. I'm going to steal this whole bit. I love the idea of reading a quote from a public figure as if they wrote you personally upon your advice. That's genius. I'm going to steal that. Now you know. At least I'm crediting the theft.
To my dear friends, Clarence and Ginny Thomas, I would now like to read a message, a statement from Judge Clarence Thomas in response to this article that is in ProPublica. So this is a statement from Judge Clarence Thomas. It reads, Harlan Crow has been one of my dearest friends for as long as I can remember. Those who think Harlan only likes me because of the legal favors I could perform simply don't know Harlan Crow. Up until recently, Harlan didn't even know what I did for a living. He thought Supreme Court Justice was my first name and Clarence Thomas was my last. Harlan likes me and I like him. That's all there is to it. He's the yin to my yang. We both enjoy expensive gifts. I receiving them, he giving them. And they weren't even gifts. I, Clarence Thomas, would never accept a gift. These were personal hospitalities.
Okay, so I don't think it is it doesn't sound like it's an actual quote. Still, I love this bit, and I'm going to steal the bit that I thought it was, for sure.
Am I supposed to disclose every personal hospitality extended to me by a friend? My neighbor, Larry, gave me his old chainsaw last year. Should I disclose that? The waitress at the Olive Garden didn't charge us for a refill on my soda. Should I disclose that? Harlan Crow flies me on his private jet to an all-expense-paid vacation at his resort in the Adirondacks, where he gets me talking about the inner workings of the court so he can invest accordingly. I'm supposed to disclose that too?
Yeah.
Where does it all end?
I'd say that one's probably good.
Look, I'm a public servant, and as a public servant, I totally get it. I get it that sacrifices must be made for the privilege of sitting on the highest court, which is why, when I took this job, I gave up repeatedly asking female underlings out on dates, no matter how often they insisted it made them uncomfortable. I also agreed to stop following female coworkers into the ladies' room without consent, to show off my photographic memory by describing in precise detail the Brazilian nun porn I watched the night before. I even dialed back my witticisms, foregoing my Noel Coward-like bon mots, like asking attractive female coworkers if that was a pubic hair on their Diet Coke. I gave all that up for the court. But I never agreed, nor would I, to becoming a casualty in the radical left's war on Christmas by refusing gifts. I'm sorry, did I say gifts? I meant personal hospitalities. I would never accept a gift. That would be wrong. Did I accept $500,000 in free travel each year from Harlan? Yes. And I will do so again this year because Harlan is a Christian, and I have no right to interfere with any man's religious freedom to be generous. Hey, if I knew these trips were valued at $500,000 each, I'd go on The Price is Right. I just accepted them. It never occurred to me to say, this is a fantastic private resort, Harlan, and your free meals are incredible. What would it run us if Ginny and I decide to stop being your friend and instead go out of pocket? You don't ask how much a personal hospitality is worth. Read the Bible, specifically the hospitalities of the Magi. The baby Jesus.
This is great, and I'm going to keep it going. Who was it that reminded me that A, David Feldman exists, and B, we should be playing him on this channel? Because I got to thank you again. I've been enjoying like a renaissance of David Feldman. But I want to jump in there. That does touch on something rather serious, which is even if you don't know the specific price of something, when you fly internationally, it just has to worm into your brain somewhere that this is a big expense, that this thing has a lot of value. And it's Salty Saturday, baby. I still got to be salty. It cheeses me off. Something awful. That anybody's pretending. On the right, on the more let's not rock the boat left, anybody at all is pretending that this isn't wildly corrupt and requiring immediate remedy. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is to be commended for saying to impeach the motherfucker. Actually, we've literally had people say that phrase before, and it was in reference to Trump. But she said to impeach Clarence Thomas, and she's right. And by the way, it doesn't matter. It does not matter that there's not enough votes in the House to yada, yada, yada. It should be brought up so that the people who will protect him have to endure the shame of his next scandal, the next thing that's inevitably going to come out. One thing about journalism, the reason you tend to start to hear drips and drabs and then a flood of information about somebody is because journalists often are great at finding information, but they need to know what they're trying to find information about. Now people know Clarence Thomas blatantly accepts bribes. So now there's going to be tons of journalists like, oh, great, let's look for some corruption. And they're going to find it because this cat has been accepting bribes for so long. And they're going to start doing stories where they're linking certain of his opinions to when he took bribes. So make this a Republican problem by making them not impeach Clarence Thomas. That's all I'm saying. All right, back to Feldman being Feldman. Get him, baby.
In the hospitalities of the Magi, the baby Jesus accepted the gold, frankincense, and myrrh from the 3 wise men, but never once said, "Can you ballpark what all this would go for on the open market, in the name of full transparency?" Didn't happen. Never said it. And let's clear something up immediately. Harlan isn't giving me hospitalities because I sit on the Supreme Court. I know this guy. He'd hospitality me if I were an appellate court judge or even a municipal judge. Harlan likes judges. Some billionaires who own luxury resorts invite artists, musicians, or chefs to come visit. Harlan prefers offering judicial residencies. At his resort, his guests are encouraged to learn the joy of judging by watching me judge things like how fresh the salmon at lunch was or how cinematic that last sunset turned out to be. Because I get paid to judge, I'm always amazed at how little your run-of-the-mill weekend judge with no hopes of ever going pro actually knows about judging, especially when it comes to judging the difference between a French Merlot and one from the Napa Valley. I wish more people could spend time with me at these resorts just watching me judge things. They would gain a keener appreciation of how hard it is to sit on the Supreme Court. Harlan and I get along so well because we're not jealous of each other's immense talent. He's not envious of my great judging skills, and I'm not envious of his innate gift to find just the right personal hospitality to keep me coming back to his resorts. Now, some accuse me of liking Harlan simply because he's wealthy. Honestly, up until this story broke in ProPublica, I had no idea that Harlan was a billionaire. I swear, I never think about what people are worth. I figured he was a multimillionaire. Turns out he's a billionaire. Doesn't matter to me. And by the way, the hospitality giving was a two-way street. Yes, his personal hospitalities given to me were in the neighborhood of $500,000 each. But my personal hospitalities given to him were the act of showing gratitude for his personal hospitalities to me that were in the neighborhood of $500,000 each. That's what dear, dear friends do. They exchange personal hospitalities. For example, I remember waking up Christmas morning last year on his super yacht, anchored off an Indonesian archipelago. Sitting on my nightstand, I noticed a gift-wrapped, mint-condition Patek Philippe watch cast in rose gold. It was a personal hospitality from Harlan Crow. Knowing that this watch was only one of 2 in existence, I wanted to give Harlan a personal hospitality of equal value. I thought long and hard, how do I reciprocate? And then it hit me. I would wear the new watch at dinner. I wish I could wear the look on his face that night around my wrist. But I guess I'll just have to settle with the $700,000 Patek Philippe watch instead. I'm David Feldman, and in just a few minutes, we're going to be doing office hours. Please join me. Tonight's office hours, if you're watching this live on YouTube, tonight's office.
We're not, but David Feldman, wonderful. Wonderful. That is a bit I'm going to be stealing. Maybe a little more abridged, but in a bit, that's a bit I'm going to be stealing. Too good. Well done. Let's talk about this a little bit. All right, what does the Wicked community have to say about this cat's corruption? I read an article today about oh my God, Wireless Mike. I read an article today about Crow's Nazi memorabilia collection, of course, and what he calls his Garden of Evil. Super weird guy. Yes. Yep. Am I supposed to obey every streetlight I drive through? Mars Falcon says in quotes. Yeah. Absolutely astounding. Mars Falcon. Mr. Thomas has sacrificed so much for us. All of us. Yeah. Oh, God. Wicked Foxy Dragon says, you may not ask, but you damn sure know it is worth your time, or really worth your time. Yeah. Mars Falcon, if a DA cannot be immune to influence for campaign contributions, which he never even got, then how is whining and dining a justice while your buddies plop case after case in front of him? Copacetic. Yeah, it's not. Mars Falcon, maintain that amateur status and let the cash flow from the alumni boosters. That way, you need to report none of it. Christ. I mean, Wicked Foxy Dragon puts it best, I think, so we can all agree that hospitality means gift. Yep. There it is. That is it in a nutshell. Good God almighty. All right, what other schwanz jokes did we have that we got to get rid of? I mean, mostly it was that one rant, and I'm so glad. I'm so glad we got to open the show with that. Oh, yeah, here's a mildly racially charged one, but I hadn't even figured out where to put it in. I just wanted to do it, so we're going to do it. Look, I realize I say a lot of peculiar phrases. It's just I like to represent all sorts of folks. I like to provide some representation. I myself am not Jewish, but I like, the word schwanz, I think, is very funny. I do references to Jewish culture, but the truth is, I'm representing cultures from all over on this show in all sorts of ways, all sorts of times. I might wear a dress one day, and in fact, I'm representing black culture in a certain way. You just can't see below the desk line, but I'm wearing Air Jordans, so trying to represent everybody in a little bit. We have another bit I wanted to look at, and this is going to be straight up traditional Salty Saturday salt, because I'm hopping mad about the double standard that persists. Now, I'm glad Trump's in court. I'm watching closely. I don't think this is something that we necessarily right now need to make a big deal about, but we do have to keep watching this and start making a big deal if it gets any more blatant than it has. And that is what Trump has been allowed to do during his judicial proceedings regarding tainting America against the justice system as it pertains to him. Here is, who is this actually? I believe this is Midas Touch talking about it. Yes, we're back to Midas Touch, but they've done such a good job building a network of experts. You can't blame me. They're just so good. Here they are talking about Trump effing with the trial already, and the consequences he could, in theory, maybe face hypothetically if you put a tooth under your pillow and have a positive dream about it. Actually, this is just a blue screen. It's a big, empty blue screen. Try a scan.
Hey everyone, Harry here to talk about the ultimate weapon that the judge in the Trump trial has. if Trump continues to make incendiary statements. Let's define incendiary statements first. He's out there really inciting, well, violence, or at least trying to really rev up his base, right? You know, it's not just his own complaining. It's, you know, I'm your salvation, I'm your retribution. How much more can patriots stand? And the like, and calling out, brag by name, the picture that we're told was a mistake and then was taken down of him with a baseball bat. One today identifying the judge's daughter. Even if those aren't a crime, and by the way, there is a potential state crime here that a misdemeanor, which would be obstruction of government administration. So you better watch it that isn't added on. But because Justice Merchant is actually, that's how you call trial courts in New York, Justice Merchant has the ability to make sure the trial goes smoothly and to protect his own courtroom and court personnel. And so he gave a general admonition today. We were watching. Would he actually give a gag order? He didn't.
Don't get excited. This is from that very first day that Trump was in court. General admonition he's talking about. What I wanted to talk about is what I said right before that, wherein he said the judge has an obligation to keep order. What was his exact phrase? He knows more than me. Let's use his words.
Justice Merchant has the ability to make sure the trial goes smoothly and to protect his own courtroom and court personnel. And so he
He has the ability. Does he say obligation? I think he says obligation.
You better watch it that isn't added on. But because Justice Merchant is actually, that's how you call trial courts in New York.
No.
Today identifying the judge's daughter. Even if those aren't a crime, and by the way, there is a potential state crime here that a misdemeanor, which would be obstruction of government administration. So you better watch it that isn't added on. But because Justice Merchant is actually, that's how you call trial courts in New York, Justice Merchant has the ability to make sure the trial goes smoothly and to protect his own courtroom and court personnel. And so he
Okay, he doesn't say obligation. Let's see.
Gave a general admonition.
Yeah, you're gonna get the shame face. I'm not gonna adjust it. You gotta look down where the dunce cap. He doesn't just have the ability; he has the obligation. A judge has an obligation to keep the trial civilized, the process of the trial civilized. He has an obligation to do that. And if the judge allows Trump to get away with the behavior he's displayed, the judge is failing in that obligation. Think about it like this. You get a parking ticket. You contest it. You go to you get assigned a judge, and you're scheduled for a day and in court, and a week before that day, you start tweeting out the home address of the officer that wrote the ticket. You start doing rants on social media where you accuse the judge of wild things left and right. What is going to happen to you when you get into that courtroom? Your ass is grass, and rightly so. But now you can point to Trump and say, hey, this is no different than behavior displayed elsewhere. Who are you to say that I am less than this other guy who, according to U.S. law, is just some guy? I have little enough, as in I have enough ignorance of the law to be able to look at legal matters from the advantage of a civilian perspective. And I realize there's all sorts of complicated legal concepts that are at play. but a lot of it's just fancy words for saying what should and should not be, what ought to be. Should we allow someone to just make a mockery of our justice system? No, of course not. The gag order should already be in place. It's not, but it should. I actually was okay with the judge on that first day, just firing off a terse warning, at least acknowledging that the events leading up to that day had happened. But what did Trump do that very night? He disrespected the judge, the court, and the American people by ignoring what the judge said. Gag order. That ought to come. I don't see it. And that makes me nervous. That makes me angry. And if it keeps up, goddamn, I'm going to turn y'all loose on him. Not yet, though. Not yet. Let's give them a moment. I understand the reasoning. I understand that the prosecutor's family are not technically directly involved in this case, but the judge has 2 eyes, 2 ears, and a brain. And really, all they need is the brain and a translator if they're lacking those other things. The point is, the judge is a human being with common sense and should shut Trump up before somebody gets hurt. Let this man keep going.
Today we were watching, would he actually give a gag order? He didn't, and he didn't even direct it at Trump, although the statements Trump had made were raised in the courtroom, and he just said, everybody, he said it to the lawyers, really admonish your clients not to do anything to A, pollute or mess with the jury pool, which is his lookout, but B, to in any way incite violence. And that doesn't have to be a sort of First Amendment incitement, to imminent violence. That's revving people up and for a potential attack, which really could happen here, and I think would be a game changer legally and politically. But he makes this general admonition, and that's step one of, I think, a many-step process before he'd take the incredibly serious step of putting Trump in jail. But that's what it undergirds this thing at the end of the line. Maybe then another warning if Trump is incorrigible. Then a gag order. And then if Trump violates the gag order and continues to speak, not just, he can't just, it's okay for him to be railing, I think, against the prosecution, and he can claim, the First Amendment right. And the people have First Amendment rights too, when he makes it part of the campaign. But when he's really fomenting violence, that would be the trouble. And if he goes over that line, maybe more warnings. Then the gag order goes over that line. Then Mr. Trump, I'm not kidding, goes over that line. Now we have really the only tool left for the judge. If you do this again, I am holding you in contempt.
I am fine with all of those complicated things being a barrier between Trump and a cell. I'm fine with that. What I'm not fine with is the judge's, I hope this is the right word, reticence? The judge's, I'm more confident with hesitance. The judge's hesitance to acknowledge what Trump did immediately following his day in court that very evening. And since I've been poking on to Truth Social, he's not letting up. So I'm not fine with those barriers being apparently unbreachable because we wouldn't dare apply them to a rich person. Should have smashed through. He should already be back in court. Gonna keep my eyes open for that. Wicked Foxy Dragon asks, Jake, do you watch Pod Save America at all? From time to time. Truth be told, just like you said, you were once upon a time a registered Republican. Once upon a time, I was something of a centrist Dem. You ever want to know why I have so much poison when I speak of them? So much wrath against them. You know, it's a little bit of yelling at myself from 6-7 years ago. So I do watch Pod Save America from time to time, but those are folks from the Obama administration, and when I hear them talking, their spin is just so... It's so much part of the problem. In fact, as I say this out loud, I realize I should put these segments on the show so I can at least give you my pitch as to why I think they're a little bit effed up. But they also make a lot of good points. It's that same danger that we have with MAGA folks and traditional Republicans, where they take a true problem and then they attribute the wrong causes to it, or they'll downplay. You'll look at a series of things that cause it, and they'll downplay all the things that would require stronger regulation and taxing the rich, even though they give they give, what do you call it, breath. They will say positive things about those concepts generally, but when it comes time to applying them to actual problems, suddenly they give more weight to the everything other than daring to tax a rich man. But I'll look at them. I'll look at them again, and I do watch them from time to time, and they'll probably work their way back into the show because, I would like to fox with them. And I do get tickled by little old me tearing into people that worked for the White House. The gall. I appreciate gall. I try to display it myself. Let's let this man finish up. He doesn't have that much long left. Let's hear what he's got to say.
Line, then Mr. Trump, I'm not kidding, goes over that line. Now we have really the only tool left for the judge. If you do this again, I am holding you in contempt. And that means if I hold you in contempt, you are going in jail for a short sentence. And eventually, if Trump continues to be completely obstreperous and dangerous, that's his final kind of bat, and it's stronger than anything Trump holds. So I'm sure Trump's lawyers are telling him that he's got to walk the line and not be a total jerk and really rev up potential violence. Of course, it was interesting today. His supporters seemed pretty sparse and they, pretty ragtag. Didn't seem to be, violent mongers. Of course, the worry here is always sort of a lone wolf doing something crazy. But anyway, that would be the issue. And at the end of the day, it is being in the pokey with all it means for his hair and everything else. So just want to understand that the final drop here, the ultimate power, lies with the judge. He will be very circumspect, very restrained in how he uses it. But that is the potent tool if Trump continues to tweet out not just complaints, but actual inciting kinds of messages. All right, we'll see if he does. There you have it for now. Until next time on this, talk to you later. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and other
Can't you just imagine how glorious it will be one day in the distant, distant future when we can hire a guy to do the transitions? Believe it or not, that was my job once upon a time. Ugh. How the hell did I ever get through that? I know, I did it badly. That's how I did it. Did the reporting good, but the transitions, never. Oh, let's have a look. Yeah, I posted a Salty Saturday link sharing clip. We're going to open it up for link sharing if you want to bitch about a clip together. Mars Falcon says, I emerged from the womb a fully formed Antifa super soldier with Das Kapital in one hand and the scales of justice in the other, and my first words were, I had a dream. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Mars Falcon, you're a badass. Wicked Foxy Dragon says, Midas Touch lost my trust because of one doctored post they made that completely changed the meaning of what was actually said. It made me wonder how many other times they did it. Good. I really like Midas Touch as a network, I have to admit, overall. But I am trying to go a little bit less with them. Number one, because I've been just over-relying on them. They have a wide variety of experts, and that makes it really easy to find great content to talk about. But yeah, get a little shady sometimes. And because it's the same problem as you get with TYT, it's a problem that comes with success. It's no smoke for either of them. It's just when you get a big, powerful network, inevitably, you get less fine control over things. And one person's bad decision is less likely to get double checked, and et cetera, et cetera. It's just, it happens. I'm not making an excuse for them there either. And also, tell me what the post is. I'll tear it to shreds. But, yeah, I'm going to go a little easier on the Midas Touch. That said, I do like that guy in particular. Leon Chevalier says, Mars Falcon, I'm on your team. I come from a very conservative home, and I'm a generally liberal person. The difference is my conservatives haven't, taken the Kool-Aid, as in American conservatives. Ooh. Yeah, to Leon Chevalier, yes. The American conservative is a very different breed, and it is because of unfettered capitalism. Fox News et al. We got to get a handle on it. Franny P, Midas does that with unsettling frequency. Ooh, noted. Okay. Wicked Foxy Dragon says, why can't people just honestly report facts? It's a great question. And Leon Chevalier says, apologies for my poor grammar. You will never be forgiven. You will burn in hell for all eternity. No, it's fine. Why can't people, says Foxy Dragon, just honestly report facts? The really good question, actually. Let me tell you on the local side how that happens, so that you can get an appreciation for how it must happen, or at least how I imagine it happens on the national side. On the local side, it's because you're exhausted. It often starts because you think you know how something went, and you don't do enough work. Bear in mind, your local reporters, the people that tell you, for example, whether or not the cops in your town are corrupt, whether or not there's a chemical spill in your town that is dangerous, or a chemical spill that is totally unrelated to you and you'll never have to worry about it because it's totally contained, those folks are making about $26,000 a year. Truly. That's, poverty wages. But, you might be thinking. At least there's all kinds of benefits that come with it. Not really. They probably don't have health insurance. They probably are on food stamps. And they probably are working somewhere around 50 to 60 hours a week. That is what it is like to be a local news person these days. Now, if you're working in a big city like Detroit or Los Angeles, all right, it changes. The lowest of the low are making about $30,000 a year. And that's going to be most people who work at that station. And then the people who are on the commercials for the station, they're making around 110 up to as much as like 200,000 a year. So think of all the stress that comes with living that poor. I mean, real poor, as in you're a 35-year-old with roommates poor. That tires you out. Then you're working 50, 60-hour weeks. Often you're starting out at, your morning starts at 4 a.m. Because you're on the 11 a.m. show or something like that. It's real easy to be on the sideline saying, what the hell? You just reprinted what this company said. They said the chemical spill wasn't dangerous. Well, guess what? We just took a match to the water from our faucet, and the the water caught on fire. Way to go, local news. You suck. And yeah, they do suck. Yeah, they let you down bad there. But they let you down bad because they were exhausted. So you can extrapolate that to the national news, or somebody, or a company like Midas Touch sees something, wants to repost it because they're like, perfect, this matches with what I've been saying. Here we go, repost, and they don't fact check, because not everybody in that network are the brothers that get the biggest paycheck, one presumes. Or the brothers have hired somebody, that person doesn't have great ethics, but they make great content, and they're willing to work for peanuts. That person doctors an image, posts it, nobody at the network checks it, so on and so forth. Is it an excuse? No. It's just how that happens. That's why it happens. It's people being too tired to do the work. You have also places like Fox News. That's different. They don't care about really their reputation. They don't care about whether or not they tell lies. So that is different. And by the way, I've heard people at the local news level chastise me for insulting people that work for Fox. Nope, that's a choice. If you're at the local news level and Fox offers you a lot of money, don't take it. Don't work for Fox. Don't work for a Fox affiliate. Do nothing. Do nothing to support Fox. Don't be part of it. The only justifiable way you could do that is if you take the job with the intention of waking that audience up and knowing that you're going to be fired in about a month. You got no choice. That is the only acceptable way to work for that company. Or if, let's just say, and this is purely hypothetical, let's just say you were a digital executive producer at one point in your career and you were suddenly given a Fox affiliate to manage, and what you did was ignore them entirely. That would also be acceptable. Not that I would know anything about that. Have a look. Have a look at some of these. All right, cool. What I am going to do is read some comments. Oh, Wicked Foxy Dragon says, I get paid $0 to write my blog, and I back up all my work with facts. I don't post something that doesn't have facts to back it up. Ah, yes. But what pays your rent? The difficult thing to wrap your head around, I think, if you're not in the newsroom, is how normal everybody is. Like, everybody watching this stream, I'm telling you, you have the political knowledge because you watch political stuff as a hobby. You have the political knowledge to be in a newsroom, for sure. And the people you talk to in there would have about your level of political knowledge. But the only difference is, oh, Wicked Foxy Dragon says Social Security. Hell yeah. But the problem is that it's not the knowledge. It's not even the intention. It's that, A, they're exhausted. I mean, it is very hard to describe to you what a tired group of people this is. I would say it equates to like nurses and teachers in terms of the level of exhaustion. However, they're also on a deadline, and they're also being asked to do multiple jobs at once. I've talked to an well, let me just get to the main point, though. What I was saying about the how do you pay your rent, this is how they pay their rent. This is their day job. So this stuff to them, it's like if you worked at a nuclear power plant. Yes, I'm sure in the first 3-4 weeks, it's on the forefront of your mind that if I screw up bad enough, I die, the whole town dies. It is a disaster that gets written about in history books. But you can't, like, the human brain can't keep thinking like that. And I'm not using this as an excuse for them. I'm just saying when we correct them, we have to correct in a way that's actually going to change it. Because if we just make people feel bad for it, and they should feel bad, but if that's all we do, it won't actually change because those weeks will pass. And they'll go into that mode where they're just not actively thinking about that stuff. And one day they'll say, I should fact check this, but I've got 5 minutes to the end of my shift. I'm pretty sure I heard this somewhere else. And they're misremembering, but they don't realize it. I'll just post it. And then they post it, and the next day they come in, and there's a flood of emails saying, you effed up. But look at the damage disinformation does to the country. Yes, it has to be dealt with. I'm not arguing that that we don't have to deal with it. I'm just saying that we have to know where it comes from. It's like if we're smoking and we get lung cancer. And look, I'm not even saying that I'm immune from this stuff, but it's like if that happens, and we treat the cancer, and then we say we need to prevent this from ever happening ever again. I'm moving out of this city. The air has too much smog in it. Okay, but if you take the cigarettes with you wherever you move, the main cause of that lung cancer ain't going away. The same with the local news people. So you see them this tired, this yada 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 yada. That's the cause of it, and I'm sure at the national level it's similar. And yes, Jim Green, in my opinion, has nailed where I think this needs to go. Reinstate the fairness in media doctrine and sue them into their demise. Everything I've just told you is not your responsibility to deal with. Really, it's the corporation's responsibility to deal with. Reagan got rid of the fairness in media doctrine. And that is very shortly after we had Newt Gingrich and his ilk get popular. And that led to, eventually, that led to the Bill Clinton impeachment. That led to the, which was essentially over nonsense by those standards, by the standards of the time. That led to the Tea Party. That led to MAGA. Fairness in media doctrine needs to be back. 2024 is the way to do that. Go all blue and then remember the fairness in media doctrine and push for that. Get it reinstated. And then finally, the lawsuits come. And places like Fox News or local media companies, which are no longer local, by the way, they're just franchises of multi-billion-dollar media companies. Case in point, I believe Graham Media made something like $4 billion last year. That's what we're talking about. Sue the hell out of them. So the chain of events to fix this is, unfortunately, threefold. It ain't one thing. It's, number one, 2024, all blue, House, Senate, White House. Number two, reinstate the fairness in media doctrine. Number three, boom, sue the pants off them. And then, once it becomes a financial decision, suddenly you're going to have less tired reporters. Suddenly you're going to have reporters who are able to spend the time fact-checking everything they do, etc., etc. Jake, you always tell us that we are responsible for all this because we need to vote for people that will restore things like the fairness in media doctrine. Yes, we are responsible generally for it. We're not responsible for the individual actions that need to be taken by the corporations. What we're responsible for is motivating the corporations to take these actions. So you're correct, and I'm not. You're correct. I always do say that, and I stand by that. We are responsible for this broadly, and ultimately. But what we can't do, not because there's a law preventing us, just because it won't do anything. We can't just like write in and tell our the company that makes the news, X, Y, or Z, you need to give more money to your reporters, you need to give less hours to your reporters, and so on and so forth. As I say that out loud, actually, that would probably help, but it wouldn't help as much as restoring the fairness in media doctrine, and that's the target. So we are responsible for the situation, and we're responsible specifically for that part of the situation, making it a matter of financial interest, again, for these corporations to treat their employees well, to incentivize their employees to be good reporters. Because right now, they're incentivized only to be good content producers, and there's a massive difference there. Interestingly, case in point, when I mention an MMJ, let me just tell you very quickly, and that's the average reporter you see if you're watching local news. An MMJ is somebody who operates the camera, they set it up, then they get in front of the camera, then they go live or they film their piece. They do the interview, they research the story. This is out of order, obviously, because my brain ain't so good. Then they edit the motherfucker, and then they present it on television. All of that done by one person. That used to be done by an editor, a camera person, a sound person sometimes, separately from those other two, and the reporter. And sometimes there would be people that just straight up found the story, did all the fact-checking, and then sent what we call talent out to record a piece on it. MMJs are, in my opinion, GD heroes. One day, I was never one, by the way. That was not me. But I worked with them. You probably couldn't pay me enough money on God's green earth to go do the job. Would have taken it before I worked with them. After working with them, no. You're working way too hard for peanuts. But one day, I'm probably going to invite some local news folks on this channel just to talk about what's up, because I think it's something people should be aware of. Well, this was a hell of a lot of fun, folks. Fun saying goodbye to immature jokes with you. I'm going to chop it up. I'm going to post these. I think some of this content was worthy of reposting. Thank you for joining me on this salty Saturday. Thanks for bitching about the news with me. I had a real good time doing that. And I hope to see you soon. Please consider liking and subscribing. If you haven't already, tell your friends about it. Your old pal Jake wants to make a living doing this right, y'all. Because it's fun, and I think, most importantly, it can be of use. And I think that together, we can make the country and the world a better place. This has been WYCD Wicked. That stands for What You Can Do. I'll see you next time. My name's Jake.